17,508 islands, stretching 5,000 kilometers from east to west, longer than the distance from London to New York, from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific, straddling the equator like jade necklace across sapphire seas. This is Indonesia, and most of the world? They know one island, Bali, 5,680 square kilometers, less than 0.3% of Indonesia total land area. But hear what they don't know, what they've never seen. Funeral ceremonies that cost $500,000, where families keep their deceased at home for years, in the same house, at the dining table, dragons, real dragons, the largest lizards on Earth, 3 meters long, 150 kilograms, with venomous bites, found nowhere else on this planet. Coral reefs holding 75% of the world's known coral species, in just one location. 1,600 species of reef fish, 700 species of mollusks, the most biodiverse marine ecosystem on Earth. Architecture that looks like it belongs in fantasy novel. Roofs shaped like buffalo horns. Boat-hulled houses rising 15 meters high, built without nails, standing for centuries. Active volcanoes, 147 of them, more than any other country on Earth, forming the Ring of Fire, where tectonic plates collide, creating landscapes that don't seem real. This is Indonesia. Population, 280 million. 1,340 ethnic groups, over 700 languages. The world's largest archipelagic nation, the fourth most populous country on Earth. And you've barely scratched the surface. Today we're taking you beyond Bali, to 5 regions that will redefine everything you thought you knew about Indonesia. From volcanic islands inhabited by dragons, to highland villages where death is celebrated more than life. From coral gardens more diverse than the Amazon rainforest, to ancient kingdoms floating on volcanic lakes. This is Indonesia. All of it. Not just the postcard. The entire breathtaking, bewildering, beautiful truth. And once you see it, Bali will never be enough again. Let's start where everyone else starts. Bali. But not the Bali you know. Forget Seminyak. Forget Canggu. Forget the beach clubs and the infinity pools. We're going inland, into the mountains, where the real Bali still exists. The Jatilui Rice Terraces. UNESCO World Heritage Site, inscribed 2012, not for being pretty, though they absolutely are, but for representing something extraordinary. 1,000-year-old irrigation system called Subak. Watch the water. From mountain springs at 1,500 meters elevation, flowing through bamboo channels, split by hand-carved stone gates, distributed to 1,200 hectares of terraces, serving 540 rice paddies, across 27 villages. Every farmer gets exactly the water they need, no more, no less. Decided not by government, not by corporation, but by Subak councils, democratic assemblies, operating since 832 CE. And hear the genius. The terraces are staggered, planted at different times, creating patchwork, bright green new rice, golden mature rice, flooded empty paddies, all side by side. This isn't accident. This is ecosystem management. The water system doesn't just irrigate, it controls pests, floods fields to drown insects, drains them for planting, natural organic cycle, maintained for millennium. But Subak isn't just engineering, it's spiritual. Tirta Empel, Holy Spring Temple, built in 962 CE, 1,063 years ago, still functioning, still sacred. People bathing in purification pools. Watch the Balinese, in traditional white and gold, bowing before entering the water, submerging under each spout. 13 spouts, each with specific spiritual purpose. Wealth, health, wisdom, protection. The water here emerges at 25 liters per second. Constant, for over 1,000 years, from the same volcanic springs that feed the rice terraces, that grow the rice, that feeds Bali. Everything is connected. Water, rice, spirit, community. This is the real Bali. the one that existed before tourism, the one that will exist after. Penglipuran village, one of Indonesia's cleanest villages, ranked 3rd in the world in 2016, population 930. But cleanliness isn't what makes it special. Walking through perfectly aligned traditional houses. Look at the layout. Every house identical, facing the same direction, gates aligned, courtyards matching, constructed according to Trihita Karana philosophy, harmony between humans, nature, and the divine. And that bamboo forest? The village resource bank. 45 hectares, managed sustainably, harvested on rotation, providing building materials, crafts, income for 1,000 years. But we haven't talked about the real rulers of Bali, the volcanoes. Mount Batur, 1,117 meters, active. Last major eruption, 2000. But eruptions recorded since 1804. 26 eruptions in 220 years. Hikers at summit, dramatic landscape below. People hike this at 3 a.m. in darkness, 2 hours up volcanic rock, to watch sunrise from the crater rim, and what they see is why Bali exists. Massive caldera, 13 kilometers wide, formed 29,300 years ago, when Mount Batur erupted, ejecting 84 cubic kilometers of material, creating the lake below, creating the fertile soil that grows the rice that feeds the island. Steam vents, volcanic activity. Bali isn't beautiful despite the volcanoes. It's beautiful because of them. The soil, the water, the terraces, the springs, the subak, the temples, the culture, all of it. Born from fire. This is what makes Bali different from the rest of Indonesia, and what makes it similar. Because every morning in Bali, before anything else, before breakfast, before work, offerings, small palm leaf baskets with rice, flowers, incense, placed everywhere, in front of shops, on motorcycles, at temples, at home, Kanang Sari, daily offerings, made fresh, placed fresh, every day by millions of people. 87% of Bali 4.3 million residents are Hindu, in the world's largest Muslim-majority nation, that Indonesia. Unity in diversity, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, the national motto. Many, yet one. So yes, start with Bali, but don't stop here, because Bali is just the introduction, the preview, the opening chapter, and Indonesia is an encyclopedia. Now we travel 900 kilometers northeast to Sulawesi, the orchid-shaped island, where nothing makes sense until everything does. Tana Toraja, land of Toraja, population 450,000, living at 700 to 1,500 meters elevation, in valley the Dutch couldn't reach until 1905. And when they arrived, they found something they couldn't believe. Look at that roof, shaped like boat hull or buffalo horns. Depending on who you ask, rising 10 to 15 meters high, curved, swooping, impossible looking. This is Tongkanan, traditional house, but house doesn't capture it. This is origin, this is identity, this is status, this is family, built on pillars. Hardwood pillars buried 2 meters deep, supporting framework of interlocking beams, not single nail, every joint hand-carved. Every piece positioned with millimeter precision. The roof? Bamboo frame covered with corrugated iron now. Traditionally, layers of bamboo shingles, thousands of them, overlapping like scales. But look at the carvings, every surface decorated, geometric patterns, stylized buffalo, chickens, suns, each symbol telling stories, family history, ancestral journeys, status in the community. The color matters. Red, human blood and courage. Yellow, God blessing and power. Black, death and darkness. White, purity and holiness. You can tell family rank just by looking at their tongkonan. Noble houses, 14 roof layers. Middle class, 12 layers. Commoners, fewer still, but hear what extraordinary. These houses face north, always, toward the mountains, toward the origin, where ancestors arrived, because Torajans believe their ancestors came by boat, from across the sea, landed on mountain peaks. The roof shape, it's the boat. That brought them here, turned upside down, becoming home. But we need to talk about why you're really here, why Tana Toraja draws anthropologists and adventurous travelers from around the world. The funerals, Rambu Solo, the grand funeral ceremony. And grand doesn't begin to describe it. Minimum Rambu Solo costs $50,000 USD. For middle and upper class, $200,000 to $500,000. The average Torajan earns $2,000 per year. Do the math. $200,000 funeral? That 100 years of salary. So families save for decades. And while they save, the deceased waits at home, in sealed coffin, in the house, with the family. The Torajans don't call them dead. They're makula, sick, sleeping. Family members bring food 3 times a day. Talk to them, include them in decisions, for months, sometimes years. Modern preservation uses formalin. Traditionally, herbs and smoke, but the belief remains the same. Death isn't sudden, it's gradual. The soul lingers until Rambu Solo releases it to Puya, the land of souls. Then funeral day arrives, and the village transforms. 24 buffalo, 50 buffalo. For the wealthy, 100 buffalo, plus pigs, dozens of pigs. An albino buffalo, Tadong Bonga, can cost $70,000. More than car, more than house. Because the more buffalo sacrificed, the easier the soul journey to Puya. The buffalo carry the deceased across the afterlife. The ceremony lasts 3 to 10 days, hundreds of guests, sometimes thousands. All must be fed, housed, entertained. Temporary tonkanen are built, just for the funeral. 10 to 20 structures, arranged in shape, labeled by letter and number, seating by social hierarchy. The deceased presides in the central largest structure. At their party, the Mabadong, dance of death. Hundreds of people, moving in circles, arms raised, chanting, singing the deceased life story for hours, through the night, and finally, burial. But Torajans don't bury in the ground. That would be disrespectful. Too low, too earthly. They bury in cliffs, tombs carved into sheer rock faces. 30 meters high, 100 feet up, accessed by bamboo scaffolding, by ropes, by sheer determination. And those wooden figures? Tau, carved wooden effigies of the deceased, dressed in the deceased clothes, gazing out over the valley, forever watching, forever present. Some graves are 300 years old, some Tau weather and decay. Families return annually, in Manin ceremony, to clean the bodies, dress them in fresh clothes, carry them through the village. The deceased aren't gone, they're elevated, watching over the living, protecting descendants, present, always present. This isn't morbid to Torajans. This is love, this is respect, this is proof that death isn't the end, just transformation, and life continues. Coffee grows in volcanic soil. Toraja Sulawesi coffee, prized worldwide, earning premium prices, $30 to $60 per kilogram, helping pay for funerals. Rice paddies cascade down hillsides at 1,000 meters elevation, carved centuries ago, still producing, fed by mountain springs, maintained by communities that honor their ancestors by living well. This is Tana Toraja, where death costs more than life, where funerals are festivals, where ancestors live in cliffs, where buffalo are currency, where boat-shaped houses point toward heaven. And it makes perfect sense, because in Tana Toraja, the greatest respect you can show someone is how you say goodbye. Komodo National Park, where dragons rule. Now we go further east, to the edge of the world, where Indonesia becomes more Pacific than Asian, where reality bends. Because here, dragons are real. Komodo National Park, UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1991. 3 major islands, Komodo, Rinca, Padar, plus 26 smaller ones. Total area, 219,322 hectares, 603 square kilometers land, 1,817 square kilometers marine, and living here, existing nowhere else on Earth, 3,270 Komodo dragons as of 2024, Varanus komodoensis, the Komodo dragon, the largest living lizard species on Earth. Males reach 3 meters in length, that 10 feet, weigh up to 150 kilograms, 330 pounds, with muscular tails longer than their bodies, 60 serrated teeth, and venomous bites. Let that sink in. Venomous, not septic bacteria like previously thought. Actual venom glands producing toxins that prevent blood clotting, lower blood pressure, and induce shock. Komodo bites once, then follows for days, waiting, tracking by scent from 4 kilometers away until prey collapses from blood loss. They're apex predators, no natural enemies, taking down water buffalo, deer, wild boar, occasionally humans. In 2023 alone, 187 bear-human encounters, 4 fatalities. This isn't zoo, this isn't safari park, this is wild, this is dangerous, this is real. But the dragons are just the headline. Look at where they live. Volcanic islands, part of the Ring of Fire. Peaks reaching 735 meters, covered in savanna vegetation, palm trees, lontar palms, dry grass, thorny acacias. This isn't tropical rainforest. This is monsoon climate. Wet season, November to March. Dry season, April to October. Temperatures reaching 40 degrees Celsius. And then, this, Padar Island. The view that broke Instagram. 3 bays, 3 beaches, 3 different colors. White sand, black sand, pink sand side by side, curving between volcanic hills and meeting turquoise water. The pink comes from crushed red coral mixed with white sand, creating blush-colored beaches found in only 7 places worldwide. The hike is brutal, 30 minutes up volcanic rock, no shade, in 35-degree heat. But that view makes you understand why Indonesia looks like this. But above water is just half the story, because beneath these dragon-ruled islands lies one of the richest marine environments on Earth. Strong currents flow between islands, bringing nutrients from the Indian Ocean and the Pacific, creating conditions where everything thrives. Manta rays, wingspan 7 meters, gliding through cleaning stations where tiny fish pick parasites from their bodies. Just floating, weightless, while something 2 tons swims circles around you, close enough to touch, though you don't. You just watch. Mesmerized. Sea turtles. 5 of 7 species found here. Green turtles, hawksbills, leatherbacks, coming to nest on beaches that belong to dragons. And the reefs themselves, 260 species of coral recorded, over 1,000 species of reef fish, 70 types of sponges. Nudibranchs in colors that shouldn't exist. Octopuses, reef sharks, and schools of jacks so dense they block out light. And when the current runs, when 4-knot currents scream through straits, you drift dive, flying over reefs, watching fish orient into the flow, mouths open, feeding on planktonic soup while you rocket past, completely out of control, completely alive. But people live here too. The Komodo, indigenous to Komodo Island, population approximately 2,000. Traditional villages with wooden houses on stilts, descendants of former exiled prisoners, mixed with Bugis from Sulawesi, creating unique culture. Predominantly Muslim, with deep ties to the dragons. They fish these waters using traditional methods, living alongside dragons, not in conflict, not in fear, but in coexistence and mutual respect for hundreds of years. One Komodo myth says humans and dragons are twins. Same origin, same family. Which is why you don't kill your brother. This is Komodo. Dragons on land. Dragons underwater, in different form. Volcanic fire meeting ocean. Savanna meeting coral. Ancient creatures in ancient landscapes. And it's all real. No CGI. No exaggeration needed. Just Indonesia being Indonesia. Now we travel to Indonesia's eastern edge, where the Pacific begins, where islands become countless, where water becomes everything. Raja Ampat, the Four Kings, 1,500 small islands, cays, shoals, surrounding four main islands, Waigeo, Batanta, Salawati, Misul. Total area, 4.5 million hectares. That's 45,000 square kilometers. Larger than Switzerland, 90% of it ocean. And in that ocean lives 75% of the world-known coral species. In one location, 574 species of hard coral. Out of 798 known to science, 3/4 of all coral diversity on Earth. Right here, let me give you numbers. Because numbers are the only way to convey what this place is. 1,600 plus species of reef fish. That more fish species than the entire Caribbean. 699 species of mollusks. 15 marine mammal species. 6 of the world's 7 sea turtle species. Pygmy seahorses. Smaller than your fingernail. Camouflaged on gorgonians. Walking catfish. Wobbegong sharks. Reef manta rays. Whale sharks. Sperm whales. Orcas. Dugongs. Sea cows, fish schools so large they create their own currents, thousands of individual fish, moving as one organism, pulsing, breathing, alive in ways that make you reconsider what alive means. But it's the coral that matters most, because Raja Ampat reefs are resistant to bleaching, more resistant than reefs elsewhere. They experience wide temperature variations naturally. Daily temperature swings of 4 to 6 degrees Celsius, training them, making them resilient, adapted to change, and because of strong currents, the Indonesian through flow, warm water flowing from Pacific to Indian Ocean, carrying coral larvae, from Raja Ampat, to reefs across Indonesia, across Southeast Asia, across the Pacific. Raja Ampat isn't just the most biodiverse reef, it's the source. The seed bank, the mother reef, replenishing other reefs when they die. But you can't spend 24 hours underwater. Eventually you surface, and this is what you see. Limestone karst islands, mushroom-shaped, undercut by millennia of wave action, covered in jungle, rising straight from deep water, hidden lagoons, accessible only by swimming underwater, through narrow passages, emerging into secret swimming pools, surrounded by cliffs, by jungle, by silence. Pianemo, the viewpoint that launched million trips. 320 steps up to see this. Karst islands, dozens of them, scattered across turquoise water. Each one different, each one impossibly beautiful, like someone shattered jade sculpture and scattered the pieces across the sea. But Raja Ampat isn't uninhabited. Approximately 50,000 people live here, across 100+ villages, indigenous Papuan communities, with traditional ownership rights over the territory. They practice sasi, traditional marine management, spatial and temporal closures, decided by village councils, enforced by community. Areas closed to fishing for months or years, allowing stocks to recover, then opening briefly for harvest, then closing again. Modern marine protected areas, the 9 MPAs covering 1.3 million hectares, are built on sasi, traditional knowledge, working with modern science, indigenous communities, managing their own resources more effectively than any government could, and on land. 274 bird species, including 6 endemic species found nowhere else, like the red bird of paradise, Paradisea rubra, breeding males performing elaborate displays, hanging upside down, spreading scarlet plumage, vocalizing, competing for females, in biological arms race, that produce some of the most spectacular birds on planet Earth. But we have to dive one more time, because Dampier Strait, between Waigeo and Batanta, is where it all comes together. 4-knot currents, ripping through narrow straits, bringing deep water, rich with nutrients, to shallow reefs. And when that happens, everything feeds. Trevally, barracuda, tuna, Sharks, mobula rays, all at once in what divers call the fish soup. Soft corals bloom like underwater gardens. Gorgonian sea fans spread wide, filtering plankton. Crinoids extend feathery arms, everything oriented into flow, everything feeding, everything alive, and you drift through it, unable to control direction, unable to stop, just flying. Through the richest marine ecosystem on Earth, watching life in concentrations. That shouldn't be possible. This is Raja Ampat, 75% of the world coral, in 4.5 million hectares. The last great coral wilderness, the mother reef, the seed bank, the hope that coral reefs globally can survive what coming, and it's still here, still wild, still pristine, because Indonesians and indigenous communities decided it should be. And finally, we come to Sumatra, the sixth largest island in the world, 473,481 square kilometers. Larger than California, larger than Japan, running 1,790 kilometers north to south, straddling the equator, and still overlooked. Because Bali is easier, Java is closer, Sumatra requires commitment. But those who make the commitment discover this: Lake Toba, the largest volcanic lake on Earth, 100 kilometers long, 30 kilometers wide, 505 meters deep, covering 1,145 square kilometers, formed 74,000 years ago.
Lake Toba, the supervolcano, but those who make the commitment. The largest volcanic lake on Earth, 100 kilometers long, 30 kilometers wide, 505 meters deep, covering 1,145 square kilometers, formed 74,000 years ago by the largest volcanic eruption in the last 25 million years. The Toba supervolcano, ejecting 2,800 cubic kilometers of material, 28,000 times larger than Mount St. Helens. That eruption nearly ended humanity, creating a volcanic winter, lowering global temperatures by 3 to 5 degrees Celsius for a decade, reducing human population to perhaps 3,000 to 10,000 individuals, a genetic bottleneck that we still carry in our DNA. And in the center of that caldera, a new island formed, Samosir, an island, in a lake, in an island, in an ocean. The Batak people live here, 6 ethnic groups with traditional houses, similar to Toraja Tonkonan, but distinct. Boat-shaped roofs, ornate carvings, bright colors. They still practice traditional ceremonies, though less elaborate than Toraja. Still carve stone monuments, occasionally still maintain cultural identity on an island that shouldn't exist. But for architecture, we need West Sumatra, the Minangkabau heartland, and the Rumah Gadang. Look at that roof, upswept at both ends like buffalo horns, rising toward heaven, curved, graceful, spectacular. These houses measure 20 to 30 meters long, 10 to 15 meters wide. The roof rises 15 meters high, supported by massive hardwood pillars carved and painted, black and red and gold. The Minangkabau are unique among Indonesian cultures, among world cultures. They're matrilineal, the largest matrilineal society on Earth, 4.2 million people, where property passes through women, where husbands move to wives' houses, where women own the Rumah Gadang. And these houses, these magnificent houses, belong to women, are inherited by women, house extended families, under matriarchs, who make decisions, who hold power, who own the land. But Sumatra's real treasure isn't architecture, it's wilderness. Sumatra holds some of Earth's last remaining tropical lowland rainforest, the richest terrestrial ecosystem type on the planet. And living in that forest, the Sumatran orangutan, Pongo abeli, critically endangered, approximately 14,000 individuals remaining only in northern Sumatra. Watch them, using tools, using sticks to extract insects from tree holes, using leaves as gloves to handle spiky fruits, demonstrating intelligence. That reminds us, we share 97% of our DNA. The Sumatran tiger, Panthera tigris sumatrae, the smallest tiger subspecies, fewer than 400 remaining in the wild, found only here, never in zoos outside Indonesia, until 2013. And the Rafflesia arnoldi, the world's largest flower, up to 1 meter in diameter, weighing 10 kilograms, smelling like rotting meat, blooming for just 5 to 7 days, after years of development, inside a host vine. This flower, this bizarre, beautiful, stinking flower, found nowhere else on Earth, is the perfect metaphor for Sumatra, rare, spectacular, requiring patience, and rewarding those who wait. But people live here too, and they've learned to work with the land. Sumatra produces some of the world's finest coffee, mandaling, gayo, lintong, grown at 1,000 to 1,500 meters elevation, in volcanic soil, rich with nutrients from the Ring of Fire. Because Sumatra sits on the Sunda megathrust, the fault line where the Australian plate subducts beneath the Eurasian plate, creating 35 active volcanoes, creating earthquakes, creating tsunamis, creating the land itself. Mount Sinabung, active since 2010, erupting regularly, displacing thousands, but creating soil. That grows coffee, that feeds families, that creates wealth from fire. This is Sumatra, the wild west of Indonesia. Tigers in the jungle, orangutans in the canopy, volcanoes reshaping the land and people, living on the edge between catastrophe and abundance, making it work for thousands of years. From Bali's 1,000-year-old water temples to Tana Toraja's $500,000 funerals, from Komodo's 3,270 dragons to Raja Ampat's 574 coral species, from Sumatra's 14,000 orangutans to Lake Toba's caldera, that nearly ended our species. This is Indonesia, 17,508 islands, 280 million people, 140 ethnic groups, 700 plus languages, unity and diversity, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, the fourth most populous nation on Earth, the largest archipelagic state, the world's largest Muslim majority country, with Hindu Bali, Christian Toraja, animist Papua. 147 active volcanoes, more than any other nation, sitting on the Ring of Fire, where tectonic plates collide, creating land, destroying land, in an eternal cycle, the most biodiverse marine environment on Earth. 75% of the world's corals in Raja Ampat alone, the source, the mother reef, sending larvae around the world. And you've seen maybe 1%, 5 regions of 34 provinces, 5 stories of millions. So yes, visit Bali, start there, everyone does, but don't stop there, because Bali is just the door, just the invitation. And Indonesia is the entire house, with 17,508 rooms, each one different, each one extraordinary. This is Indonesia beyond Bali, the archipelago you've never seen, the paradise you didn't know existed. And it's been here, all along, waiting for you, to look beyond the beach.